Hare Krishna, Gauranga. Another 30 key verses of the Bhagavad-Gita. We're still going through this wonderful journey. We're now on 9/11. I remember a funny incident actually in a class in the Bhaktivedanta Mana. And one devotee says, I'm going to speak about 9/11. And he says, what does everybody think about that when I say that? And everybody was like, oh, fear, terrorism, and all this kind of thing. And he went, no, Bhagavad-Gita 9/11, you know, and this was the joke, of course, you know. So we're going to have a little look at this, quite a long purport. So we'll try and zip through it, and hopefully we can cover the essence, make a few nice points in between. Of course, the main focus is Srila Prabhupada's purport, and just highlighting the fact that this verse exists, so you can go off and then spend many hours combing through it and getting into it. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Avajananti mam mudha manusim tanum ashritam param bhavam ajananto mama bhuta maheshwaram. Fools deride me when I descend in the human form. They do not know my transcendental nature as the Supreme Lord of all that be. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharani Nirvishesha Sunya Vari Paschachadi Shatarani. Purport by the Divine Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. From the other explanations of the previous verses in this chapter, it is clear that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, although appearing like a human being, is not a common man. The Personality of Godhead who conducts the creation, maintenance and annihilation of the complete cosmic manifestation cannot be a human being. Yet there are many foolish men who consider Krishna to be merely a powerful man and nothing more. Actually, he is the original Supreme Personality, as it is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna. He is the Supreme Lord. So this is one of the big faults of the modern conception, that the fact that Krishna came here to the material world would instantly make him material. This is one idea. If he came into the material world, he must obviously get infected or affected by material association, material energy, potency, or false ego and mind, and all these kind of things. The second one is that the second misconception is that he was born into the material world. So again, that means he's material, and then achieves his godhood. And there's a quick answer we can give to that one, is Prabhupada mentions in the Krishna book that as a little baby boy, he didn't have enough time to meditate and get into his godhood. He was already the Supreme Person of Godhead, so he was already killing these demons, you know, using all his powers and potencies. As a baby, he didn't even have to manifest a huge form like Lord Nrsimhadev, or step over the whole entire universe in one step, like the pastime of Vamanadev. You know, he was already like that already. You know, this is Krishna. He can do the most wonderful things just as a small baby. You know, another conception is that misconception. Sorry, is that because obviously we share the same energy as God, we can also be God, you know. So this is the other thing, just thinking that he's an ordinary being, you know. And we hear that we think, well, I've been listening to a lot of classes by Tribhuvanath Prabhu, and he made one idea that Tamal Krishna Maharaj was giving class in Fiji in the 90s, and one of his disciples fell asleep in front of him in the class, and he said, "Oi, stop falling asleep." And he said, you can see then how it's possible that Govinda was travelling with Lord Chaitanya, and yet got carried away by lust, and went off into the association of these Aborigine girls in the village. So he says, you're sitting before your spiritual master who's giving class and you're falling asleep. So this is how powerful Maya is. So even though so many people were there when Krishna was there, they couldn't recognize that Krishna was God. You know, even when Lord Chaitanya, of course, Lord Chaitanya, for that very reason, wanted to avoid being known as the Supreme Person of Godhead, wanted to just appear as a devotee. But the intimate devotees like Advaitacharya, Srinivas, and so on and so forth, Narottam Das Thakur, they all knew that Lord Chaitanya was the Supreme Person of Godhead. But otherwise, everybody just thought he was a powerful devotee or an incarnation. There are many Ishvaras, controllers, and one appears greater than another. In the ordinary management of affairs in the material world, we find some official or director, and above him there's a secretary, and above him a minister, and above him a president. Each of them is a controller, but one is controlled by another. In the Brahma Samhita it is said that Krishna is the supreme controller. There are many controllers, undoubtedly, both in the material and in spiritual world, but Krishna is the supreme controller. Ishvara Parama Krishna, and his body is Satchid Ananda, non-material, so full of knowledge, eternity and bliss. So you have to find that person who has supreme knowledge. And this is one point here that Prabhupada always calls Krishna the supreme personality of Godhead, because there's many powerful personalities in the universe. We said the other day how much potency Lord Brahma has. Lord Shiva can destroy the whole universe. But Krishna is the supreme person, the source of all the incarnations. We say that all these different avatars, and there's the avatari. Material bodies cannot perform the wonderful acts described in previous verses. His body is eternal, blissful and full of knowledge. Although he is not a common man, the foolish deride him and consider him to be a man. His body is called here Manushim, because he is acting just like a man, a friend of Arjun's, a politician involved in the battle of Kurukshetra. In so many ways he is acting just like an ordinary man, but actually his body is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, eternal bliss and knowledge absolute. This is confirmed in the Vedic language also. Satchit Ananda Rupaya Krishnaya. I offer my obeisances to the Supreme Person of Godhead, Krishna, who is the eternal, blissful form of knowledge. That was from the Gopal Tapani Upanishad 1.1. So again we can see these ancient Upanishads are making that point. Who Krishna is, what his form is. Krishna is not just a predicted incarnation. Krishna is the source of all incarnations. Krishna is the source of all spiritual material worlds. Krishna is the source of all potencies and abilities. And this has been known since time immemorial. It also then quotes from the Gopal-tapani Upanishad again. It says there are other descriptions in the Vedic language also. Tamikam Govindam, you are Govinda, the pleasure of the senses and the cows. Satchit Ananda Vigraham, and your form is transcendental, full of knowledge, bliss and eternality. And that's also the Gopal-tapani Upanishad 138. Despite the transcendental qualities of Lord Krishna's body, its full bliss and knowledge, there are many so-called scholars and commentators of Bhagavad-Gita who deride Krishna as an ordinary man. The scholar may be born an extraordinary man due to his previous good work, but this conception of Sri Krishna is due to a poor fund of knowledge. Therefore he is called Mudha. For only foolish persons consider Krishna to be an ordinary human being. The foolish consider Krishna an ordinary human being because they do not know the confidential activities of the Supreme Lord and his different energies. They do not know that Krishna's body is a symbol of complete knowledge and bliss, that he is the proprietor of everything that be, and that he can award liberation to anyone, because they do not know that Krishna has so many transcendental qualifications to deride him. And this is one of the kind of things here that, because they are material, and because they're foolish and lost, they have no ability to even comprehend that there can be a supreme above them, naturally due to the false ego. We think that, we are the centre of all attraction. We are the masters of all that we can perceive. But what can we perceive? Prabhupada gives this quite simple example, but again very scientific, because you can practically experiment in this way. That if you cut your hand, okay, you may be able to perceive some blood comes out, but that's it. You don't know what's going on in the nerve endings, and you don't know what's all healing up and how long what it's all doing to try and heal itself up. Maybe one or two doctors do, or so on and so forth. But realistically speaking, even they only are limited to what they can understand about the body. They know the kind of basic functions, but they don't know the full internal structure. But Krishna knows the ins and outs of every single particle in the whole entire universe if he wishes to know. But he doesn't take any, because he's not taking any direct interest, as we heard the other day from Maya Jakshana Prakriti Swati Sucharucharam. He's not getting involved to that in-depth, descriptions, and actions. But still, he can if he needs to, if he wants to, But we can barely even, we've got a sore head, we don't know why. We can't, we have eyesight problems, we get teeth falling out, we get back pain. We don't even know why, because the body is breaking down. I suppose is the common example we can put, So we're definitely not supreme, right? We're definitely not God. We're definitely not got much potency. We can barely influence another person, to do something. Whereas by Krishna's mercy, and if Krishna gives you some potency, you can influence the whole entire world. Yeah? Nor do they know that the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in this material world is a manifestation of his internal energy. He is the master of the material energy. As has been explained in several places, Mama Maya Durataya. He claims that the material energy, although very powerful, is under his control, and whoever surrenders unto him can get out of the control of this material energy. If a soul surrendered to Krishna can get out of the influence of material energy, then how can the Supreme Lord, who conducts the creation, maintenance and annihilation of the whole cosmic nature, have a material body like us? Simple point, nothing need to be said on that one. So this conception of Krishna is complete foolishness. Foolish persons, however, cannot conceive that the personality of Godhead Krishna, appearing just like an ordinary man, can be the controller of all the atoms and of the gigantic manifestation of the universal form. The biggest and the minutest are beyond their conception, so they can't imagine that a form like that of a human being can simultaneously control the infinite and the minute. And there's a weird thing, actually, you think that this is something that would be easier to, especially nowadays, to understand these things. We have so many movies that are mimicking potency, superheroes who have unnatural abilities. So we know that there is people who are more powerful than us. We yearn for that. Why? Because we want to be God. Because that it's our nature to be more than we are now, but in a different way. We use our eternal life and our eternal blissful, full of knowledge bodies to serve Krishna. We don't use any of the potencies that we have to just enjoy. But this is all these movies are going on. Where it's like Star Wars or Star Trek or these different vast universes where they're traveling all over, because there is planets. There is planets with species all over the whole entire universe, and unlimited universes. All coming from Krishna. And these different going under the sea, going over into the jungles and exploring and doing all these things because we're yearning for some adventure, something higher, and that's only really possible through Krishna consciousness. Although he is controlling the infinite and the finite, he is apart from all this manifestation. It is clearly stated concerning his yogam aishwaram, his inconceivably transcendental energy, that he can control the infinite and the finite simultaneously, and that he can remain aloof from them. Although the foolish cannot imagine how Krishna, who appears just like a human being, can control the infinite and the finite, those who are pure devotees accept this, for they know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, they completely surrender to him and engage in Krishna consciousness, devotional service of the Lord. So this is where we're heading for. Once we understand beyond the material energy, once we understand beyond our own limited mind and senses and so on, that there is a Supreme Personality of Godhead, then we start to perform devotional service. Then we can understand these things. That Krishna is playing in the spiritual world, but maintaining all these vast universes with so much intricacy, and yet effortlessly. And he's aloof from it. He's not even concerned about it, because he's fully confident in his own ability to maintain. There are many controversies between the impersonalists and the personalists about the Lord's appearance as a human being, but if we consult Bhagavad-Gita and the Srimad Bhagavatam, the authoritative text for understanding the science of Krishna, then we can understand that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is not an ordinary man, although he appeared on this earth as an ordinary human. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st canto, 1st chapter, when the sages headed by Shaunaka inquired about the activities of Krishna, he said, Kritavan kila karmani saha ramani keshavaha atimartyani bhagavan guda kapata manushaha. Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so must he perform many superhuman acts. Bhagavatam 1:120. The Lord's appearance as a man bewilders the foolish. No human being could perform the wonderful acts that Krishna performed while he was present on this earth. When Krishna appeared before his father and mother, Vasudeva and Devaki, he appeared with 4 hands, but after the prayers of the parents he transformed himself into an ordinary child. As stated in the Bhagavatam 10.3.46, Babhuva Prakrita Shishu. He became just like an ordinary child, an ordinary human being. Now here again, it is indicated that the Lord's appearance as an ordinary human being is one of the features of his transcendental body. In the 11th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita also, it is stated that Arjuna prayed to see Krishna's form of 4 hands, Tainaiva Rupena Chatur Bhujena. After revealing this form, Krishna, when petitioned by Arjuna, again assumed his original human-like form, Manusam Rupam. These different features of the Supreme Lord are certainly not those of an ordinary human being. It's one of these things we say sometimes babies come up with a lot of hair, or they come out with different far-out features, but no one comes out with 4 arms. No one comes out being able to manifest a conch and a club and a desk of lotus and a shining helmet, Kastubhamani. No, because that's unique to Krishna, right? And of course, that's in many ways that's a kind of ridiculous point, but it's still there. Who was lifting Govardhan Hill? Who was doing these different things? Krishna's pastimes are unique, as we said the other day, unique even among the incarnations. No one's doing these things like what Krishna was doing, because Krishna wanted to show, don't mistake me. This is why this purport is so long, because it's such an important thing. Do not mistake Krishna for an ordinary person. Even Arjuna himself, he says this later in the Bhagavad-Gita, he says, oh my God, I've offended you so much. I sat down beside you like you were just my friend. You even massaged my feet as if we were equals. But you're the Supreme Person of Godhead. Please forgive me. Now I've accepted you as my spiritual master. Now you're guiding me. And I realize the mistake that I have made, Some of those who deride Krishna and who are infected with the Mayavadi philosophy quote the following verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam 3:29-21 to prove that Krishna is just an ordinary man. Aham sarveshu bhuteshu bhutat mavastita sada. The Supreme is present in every living entity. We should better take note of this particular verse from the Vaishnavacharyas like Jiva Goswami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, instead of following the interpretation of unauthorized persons who deride Krishna. Jiva Goswami, commentating on this verse, says that Krishna in his plenary expansion as Param Atma is situated in the moving and the non-moving entities as the super soul. So any neophyte devotee who simply gives his attention to the Archamurti, the form of the Supreme Lord in the temple, and does not respect other living entities, is uselessly worshipping the form of the Lord in the temple. There are 3 kinds of devotees of the Lord, and the neophyte is in the lowest stage. The neophyte devotee gives more attention to the deity in the temple than to other devotees. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur warns that this sort of mentality should be corrected. A devotee should see that because Krishna is present in everyone's heart as Param Atma, everybody is the embodiment or the temple of the Supreme Lord. So as one offers respect to the temple of the Lord, he should similarly properly respect each and everybody in which the Paramatma dwells. Everyone should therefore be given proper respect and should not be neglected. This is this idea of Jiva Doya. We should, when we were saying this, seeing the Lord in everyone's heart, and seeing it in the big elephant and the Brahmin and the dog, seeing in the lower class Shudra, this is the vision that we're looking for. We're able to approach Krishna in the heart with respect, not just the living entity. There are also many impersonalists who deride temple worship. They say that since God is everywhere, why should one restrict himself to temple worship? But if God is everywhere, is he not in the temple or in the deity? Although the personalist and the impersonalist will fight with one another perpetually, a perfect devotee in Krishna consciousness knows that although Krishna is the Supreme Personality, he is all-pervading, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. Although his personal abode is Goloka Vrindavan, and he is always staying there, by his different manifestations of energy and by his plenary expansion, he is present everywhere in all parts of the material and spiritual creation. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Nitai Gaura Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol.